not just build it, but maintain.
4.08 what?
2C1.
Mitigation requirements?
For extractive industries. I have a note to remove C1. Which is the screening element.
The reason why I put that in there was because of where those locations are, generally speaking. I
Well,
mean,
if you look at the upper part, it says residential areas. So if it isn't a residential area, then it's not gonna, the impact's not there.
do we even allow that in residential areas, so? I guess that's what I'm getting at, is that aggregate extraction, I don't know of in any residential area that you allow that.
Well,
If you do, the buffering makes sense.
yeah, I think so.
All right, so keep,
Yeah, I think we should keep C1.
If it were to happen.
all right, so the next one,
McMurray did that over there at Blackmore when he started. They did the aggregate right in the middle, and it was it wasn't residential, but it can be done.
so then the next one up is 40804. Industrial manufacturing heavy. B, the suggestion is to take out that the heavy use shall be surfaced to control dust and provide drainage away from structures.
I think the shell probably. Most of them just say you have to have a road, and then the dust control is, so surfaced is,
Could be anything. It
Could
could
be,
be mag
right,
chloride.
yeah. So,
Gravel.
but all that's designed to control dust, so I think probably,
Just control dust.
Controlled
dust
dust is really all you
sounds
need to
good.
do, so that's,
So we'll
leave that,
Leave
leave
that.
as is.
well, with the, yeah.
yeah, with the
Okay.
With
strike.
Without, with the strikeout,
Yeah.
strike through.
I got to the right page of the matrix.
It's on page 100.
The next one is 40811, C1. The I'm not sure, Dave, what leaves C2 as the requirement.
We missed one.
Oh, sorry.
Go back, oh, okay, C1, okay, never mind. I was looking at the wrong one, so. Yeah, that's my recommendation. The reason being is that as long as you can meet the requirements of the second one, that it shouldn't be a big deal. As long as you can maintain the 100 feet away from any residential area, the storage shouldn't be that big of a deal, because basically if you do that, then you eliminate any of the potential of somebody using diesel or heating oil instead of natural gas or something else at their property. Peter, you look like you have a question.
Well, and I didn't know if Paul was, so this is storage, less than 500 gallons, only allowed in the mountain RR1, 2, LI, and HI.
And I'm just saying to eliminate where they're allowed and just say, put that they're allowed if they can be stored within at least 100 feet away from any residential area. Take out the districts that they're allowed in and just say they're allowed if they can be stored within this distance. Because that's the whole purpose of it, is to make sure that, for safety reasons.
What happens
So
if you
A,
want?
A says it's not regulating heating oil used for on-site residential heating, so there is that one. And then RAM, B talks about RAM and UA, which says that the
All right,
standards
this,
don't
if I
apply.
can, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this keeps it out of like the urban residential and whatnot, the 2 acre or such type acreage lots.
I think that we ought to leave it in and then let the variance process move forward if somebody does have a special situation.
It's not uncommon to have a 1,000-gallon fuel tank.
Right, well, and that's just it. This is 500 or less. I'm not even talking about 1,000. This is 500 or less that you can have. When you get over to 1,000, then I don't have any problem with changing that, but 500 is
Well, some people have 500s instead of
Yeah.
1,000 gallons.
yeah, and there's a lot of people that have 500 in these areas. That's the reason why I'm saying, if they can keep it at least 100 feet away from a residential area or facility, then it shouldn't be a big deal. That way, their property, the size of their property is going to dictate whether they can actually have it or not the zoning.
My vote, just to keep things rocking this morning, and I'd leave it in and let the variance take over in light of the RAM and UA. You know, those zoning, we're not even talking about those areas. And then heating oil, we're not talking about that either under 408, 11A and B. Let
Rob?
everybody else.
I don't think it'll matter to keep it in.
Yeah. If it's not gonna have an impact, let's just leave it.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jim?
Yep, that's fine. Let's move.
The next, the next change is actually marked on D1, that we excluded RAM from the 12,000 gallons and only restricted it to just commercial, light industrial, and heavy industrial.
I think we ought to add RAM back into that because of the locations, how far they are away from everything, and the storage and everything else on that.
Yeah, I think we ought to leave it in there too, because if you got a ranch out there a long ways and it's you can't hardly get fuel to it. Sometimes, money-wise, you order a semi and a pop load.
Well, not
So
only
you got a 1,200 gallon.
Yeah, well, not only that, if you have a bad snowstorm or something like that, that could make a difference whether you,
Have fuel.
yep.
So we ought to leave RAM in there.
Noted?
Okay.
I'm in agreement with that too.
Yep.
Then the next one I have on my sheet is 40813. So,
This goes into the nuisance part.
yeah, so this has some explanation, and we need to determine which direction we want to go. Give me 1 second. Sorry, I forgot to open my. Are you able to see that better today?
We all actually have it on our
And we got
computers
it here,
today.
too. She
That's-
fixed us
I
up.
have-
Different though.
Oh, you got a different up
That's,
there.
that's.
Oh, okay.
So currently, in order to make these two pieces jive, if we carry over our nuisance, we can just keep the nuisance part, which says that 5 or more inoperable unlicensed vehicles in RAM, UA, LI, and HI districts, or 1 or more in all other zones, which are not part of a permitted auto reduction yard, would be a nuisance. And we can either keep our current conditional use permit going, or we can eliminate that conditional use permit. What we proposed when we were looking at nuisance was to take it completely out of nuisance and just make it a permitted use. So in that, with a couple of recommended adjustments to what we have in there, is that it would be up to 6 unregistered in RAM, UA, HA, light industrial that's a non-residential use in those zoning districts. Accumulations of 1 would be allowed without screening on all other zoning districts, including LI with residential use. The exemptions would be for vehicles and equipment relevant to the operation of farms and ag land, and antique or historic motor vehicles as defined by the state statute. Outside of that, any accumulations would then require a screening plan, which is basically what the CUP was dictating. And that they would follow that, come into the office, complete the application for all of that. They must demonstrate that there's sufficient acreage on the property to accommodate. So a lot of this is similar in that same kind of CUP style, because it would be a conditional use permit that they would complete for this. The storage standards, I would suggest taking out this portion, which was related to the nuisance management of it. We're not going to come babysit anything. It's a conditional use. If at some point there's a complaint that that conditional use is being abused with any other conditional use that we handle, be handled the same way.
Christie, the only thing, go back up on that. The other exemption that I think we need to have in there is not just for agriculture, but also any piece of equipment that is not required to be registered, i.e. ATVs, UTVs, snowmobiles, because they're not allowed on the street. And those should not, I mean, they should be exempt from having to be shielded and everything else, or screened, because if you don't, what happens is everybody's ATV out there, if you don't use it on a trail or something else, or if you just decide not to use it that year, you don't have to register it. And so I'm just trying to make sure there's not,
We can add that.
you know,
The only thing
Mr. Chairman?
yes. Jim,
So I'd take a step further than that, potentially, and just remove unregistered. Just as an example, using myself, I've got several trailers that they're unregistered. I've got a few vehicles that I'm not using. They're perfectly operable, but I don't need them, so I'm not going to pay registration on them until I need them. And so I just think having them unregistered, if they're operable and I can go down to the courthouse, get a plate, and come and put them on and drive it down the road. Those vehicles shouldn't count, I don't think.
I agree with Jim. I agree with you 100% on that, because there are times that you don't register a lot of stuff if you aren't using it.
It's not just trailers or
No.
ATVs or whatever.
Right.
I've got vehicles that are sitting here that I don't feel like registering right now, but I certainly could if I want to do it and run them down the road. But I just choose not to.
So is, in that situation, is having more than 6 of those a reality, or would you?
Yes, it is a reality.
Well, except,
Yeah,
well, vehicles, and equipment relevant to an operation of farms or ranches, see, a lot of those would fit under that exemption. So you could have more than 6 then.
And you've also got non-conforming, anyhow, to
Right.
cover everybody that's already, like me.
Like me,
And
Well,
it
yeah.
already
I mean, I've
has-
got more than 6 trailers. I've got a
Well,
lot
you
more than
end
6
up with lots of
trailers.
You
Trailers
just
are
do.
not in this.
They're, because they're not.
Well,
under-
They're not
could
self,
be
they're
like-
not
But
self, they're not self-driving.
They're not a car.
Yes, so trailers are not part of this.
But snowmobiles ought to be taken out of it, ATVs, UTVs, that's,
Are they in there right now?
well, they're not specifically exempted.
What's
That's
the
the reason why I'm
definition?
saying that.
That's where I'm
Well,
trying
it's
to go.
because this section is unregistered inoperable car
Cars.
storage.
So I gotta look at the definition of that.
How did we end up with 6 instead of 5?
I just see unoperable and unregistered as 2 different things, but I'll go with whatever you guys.
Well, and there are unregistered vehicles that people drive around on their property, and that's the only place they ever go, you know? And they couldn't pass a DOT inspection of any type, but they still run, and they get you from point A to point B.
It's no big deal. I just wondered, we came up with 5 and
So
20 years ago.
vehicle is defined as the state statute defines it. So I will have to look that up and get back. It's statute 135201. Come on. Which may not be the right one. Oh, because I typed 31, sorry. No, that's 31.
Morning.
So I guess my question and all this stuff we're looking up, the section we're dealing with deals strictly with cars.
Just strictly with cars.
And so we're now all of a sudden if you're going to start throwing snow machines and all this stuff in, you need to change the title or inoperable.
We'll make sure the definition is for a
Vehicle.
car vehicle.
As long as we do that, then I don't have any problem with that. The only other thing that I have in there is accumulations of one unregistered vehicle allowed without screening per 10 acres. I would change that per property
We've been,
because,
we're YouTubing.
I mean, because you can, if you have one inoperable vehicle, it doesn't really matter how big the property size is, unless I'm misreading that. And that's in the second part of,
The second part
one.
is one is allowed without screening in all the other zoning districts, and that would include light industrial residential.
I guess it's the per 10 acres that,
I took that out of this
oh,
one.
okay, all right, sorry.
Yeah.
Good.
Good?
Sorry.
We good with where the proposed,
How did we end up with 6 instead of 5? Was that
It was a suggestion
Oh,
to,
okay.
to increase the amounts. We increased on that current one, if you're in any of those other zones, you could have none. So we increased that one to 1. So I think they just increased the.
5 to 6.
6.
5 to 6.
Yeah.
You're only talking about one, so that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. What's that? All right. So that'll be pulled out of nuisance and left as a use. Whoops.
So are we gonna then take all of the car stuff that's in nuisance out
Yes.
in the appendix?
Yes,
Or-
sir.
Okay.
Except for now, I'm not displaying. Help, help. I need an adult. Please. Pretty please.
You might. Yeah. That's what I was refresh.
Oh, wait.
Maybe you go down to the bottom and hit one of those. The little file deal at the bottom.
My mouse isn't showing up anywhere over there.
Did you try the USB for your mouse?
We feel your pain.
Mouse guy.
Ooh. Ooh, ooh.
Michelle might be able to fix it too.
Display.
Try the file one.
Listen to the non-techie people.
This is where everybody's an expert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just keep pushing buttons. If you don't know what it's for, just push it.
Yeah. And when that doesn't work, get out the hammer.
Yeah, yeah. Just
I know.
jiggle a wire.
I don't
Con
know
Murphy
if I
said that one time.
I called right to him.
Just jiggle a wire, boy, just jiggle a wire.
Are you showing it on your screen or are you seeing?
No, I'm showing it on my screen, so that's,
It's just a feed to the TVs.
identify,
Ooh,
2.
got some movement there on that one.
Don't get excited.
There's another one.
Now I just need to make sure that it's going to 2 and not 1. So it was supposed to just mirror 1 and it created a new one is what it did.
So what section are we gonna be
So we're
on
in,
now?
the next one, I'm sorry, we've picked
Should
through
be a-
all of that.
409.
Let's go to the wrong direction. Operable cars.
We lost our screen.
We're going to campgrounds next.
And is that this 40901?
40901A, campground. We revised the numbers 5 to match the health department. We replaced 4 acres with 5 acres. We removed the buffer, which is one of my questions, because we have a conflict on that one, about whether the buffer for campgrounds should remain.
Yeah, I was the one that thought we should keep the screening in there, where it's adjacent to residential uses. And, you know, sometimes the vehicles coming in and navigating their campground space, you have kind of the full swath or spectrum of headlights in the evening or the first thing in the morning. And so I think that you can interfere with adjacent residential uses. So that's why on large-scale commercial campgrounds, I think we need to keep screening it.
Oh, it switched to the other screen.
I think that just depends on where they're at. I mean,
I'm in agreement with, Peter. Sorry if I'm stepping on anybody when I talk. There's a little lag or something.
I need him back.
You're fine. I was just wondering about all of the ones that are out there now.
They're grandfathered.
Well, but I mean, it, like you get the one out on Coal Creek Road and that doesn't affect anything.
Yeah, where it's, you've got a residential use adjacent. That's what this
Adjacent
says.
to it.
Only if
Okay.
there's a residential use adjacent.
Okay, yeah, I'd go for that.
All right, so we're gonna keep that?
I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
All right, the question on H was why 100 feet for the setbacks, I believe is what it is? And that again has to do with the compatibility.
yeah, but if you're gonna put in a buffer, you really need that. If you got a buffer or screening in there,
yeah, if you keep the screening in,
you
100
really,
feet's a long way.
it is. I just don't see, I mean, you could go one or the other, but if we're gonna keep the screening in there, I think that we could reduce that 100 feet dramatically.
I don't think 100 feet's that far for a large-scale commercial. And this is campsites. This is the campsite itself, where you're gonna have, you know, the barking dog or
I need to see it on
the
this
kids run around and screaming, and
So that's the edge of the trailer, not the
So
edge of the
instead of
park
reflecting
property.
it, it gave me 3 more.
correct. This is the campsite, the developed campsite area. Not a road, like, you know, a service road to get to the campsite. So I thought it was okay.
Well, and if they want it less than that, they can come in and get a variance.
Which one are we talking about? Sorry.
That setback's H,
The-
or,
The 100 feet setback?
yes,
Okay,
I guess it's G now,
and we're gonna keep the 100 feet?
yeah. We're good.
That's what I'm trying to
Jay?
J was, trash was the next one. I have new language that was supposed to have been put in here from our P and Z meeting, but that did not get reflected in this, that says the trash receptacles and dumpsters may be provided, if provided, trash receptacles shall be covered and enclosed to prevent pests and secure receptacles. If trash receptacles are provided, they shall not be located more than 300 feet from the dependent site. The trash receptacles are not provided, notice to users that they must pack their trash out must be provided. So rather than it being a bear proof, it's covered and enclosed to prevent pests and secure receptacles.
I don't have any problem with that at all. I agree with that 100%, because I know that was one of my comments, was bear-proof, because we don't have bears
Okay.
everywhere.
The next question we had on that was the interior roads. So those roads, the question that I had on here is that we had consecutive days for occupancy on what's now L. Stays are limited to 30 consecutive days or less. County campsites are 10, state BLM is 14. But if you stay at a KOA, that's a commercial campground, They have, isn't that plugged in? The power is in my office. That's probably what's wrong. Sorry.
What do you need?
Can you just use one
Here,
of this
just
one?
take this one.
Or you can take Jim's right here.
He's out of here.
Yeah, I'm not using mine.
I
But
can't
it's
sign in on that one. It's fine.
Just use the power cord.
Yeah.
It should be
Yeah.
compatible.
If it'll reach, because that's the problem. These are all tied.
Yeah, it'll be fine. I'll be back in a second. I have a printout.
Okay.
I'm
so-
adaptable. I'm good.
Nice.
Yeah, so do we really need a limit on our occupancy if it's a commercial,
Large scale.
large
No,
scale?
no, because we've actually got campsites in the, or campgrounds in the county that don't have, that actually have long-term. Isaac Walton is one where they actually have people that live down there, that's a campground. As long as it's commercial, as long as it's a commercial campground, that ought to be regulated by them, because they're having to provide
Yep.
the facilities for those people that are staying there.
Yeah, so basically, I think the purpose of this would be something like, for people who are gonna be kind of full-timers.
Well, yeah,
uh,
that's, yeah.
You've still got restrooms, you've still got
You
whatever.
have, you have everything you need
utilities.
right there, just like you would in a regular trailer park. It's just not made for long-term,
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
okay with
permanent.
this coming out.
I'm good with it coming out too.
That'd be
Okay.
3.
Then, so how about for small campgrounds? They also have that on there.
Yeah, I'd say it's the same way, as long as
Same
they,
way.
as long as they meet the requirements for the health department and stuff like that, then, which they have to do, it really shouldn't make a whole lot of difference if they've got 5 campsites or if they have 30.
So on this, though, are the requirements for a small campground less than they are for a large? And I would bet that they are, I just don't recall, because that might be, if you don't have to have the facilities and infrastructure,
You still have to have the facilities and the infrastructure according to the health department.
So
Yeah,
the health
but-
department does not,
No, the health
They
department
didn't
doesn't
regulate.
get involved until 5 or more, as far as for,
5 or more.
yeah, so I can see this one being reasonable.
we can up it to 30 days?
30 days,
I
if
kind
they
of like
don't
that.
meet the health department.
Well, it won't
Something.
fall under that anyhow. So I don't think, just by definition, I don't think you need to mention that. I think you just say 30, or Paul, what do you think?
Yeah.
Jim, what about 30 instead of 14?
no, 30 works.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's see that.
And you're gonna fix K in this one also? The bear proof?
Yeah,
Okay.
For small.
The small ones address the Eclipse campgrounds that were popping up a lot, and different things like that, you know. So the big commercial types that are 5 or more, they're the more ingrained KOA. So I think we're good.
Give me just 1 second to get this. There we go. The additional piece that we added was a definition for a private campground that's not commercial, still meeting those minimum requirements of 2 acres, still requiring some step backs, no occupancy limits on those as well, because they're going to be private. So those updates will be made, as well as the trash.
okay.
What's the next one?
The next one looks like it is the temporary use standards.
So, just going back real quick on the
Yes, sir.
private. So we had the situation up on the mountain where a gentleman literally created an area, I don't know if it was 2 acres or 5 acres. It wasn't very big. It's right off of East End Road. and he had kind of carved it out so that he could have friends and family and whatnot. Is that covered under this?
That would cover under it, but giving it a little bit of parameters so that there's 4 spaces.
Because I think back when we had the discussion, it was, what is the definition of a campground? So this would then cover that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good.
Good.
So the next one I have is 41005, which then we get into the towers. The comment was remove and associate with the CUP. We need the language in the zoning in order to have a CUP.
Okay.
So then we're down to 410, 13, B1 through 2. Dave, stop me if I'm skipping any of yours.
41013.
You changed a bunch in solar facility on 41012. Yeah,
Oh,
right.
that's right. I'm sorry. I have a note that said my sheet is out of order. So
Okay.
I apologize.
So we gonna do 12?
12.
Okay.
410, 12 solar? So,
We,
where are the, oh, here we go.
Okay, you put the battery storage in. But no verbiage. Oh, no, it's under.
It's part of the definition. Do we need a definition of battery storage?
I believe we put one in.
Okay.
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 We took out the sage grouse language.
Good.
Okay.
We took out the damage to existing vegetation as part of the reclamation plan.
Yeah, because underneath them, there's not going to be any vegetation.
No, and you really don't want any vegetation.
That's not actually accurate according to Duke.
Well,
They have,
I know they've got pictures of them, but if you have those in there, they got pictures of sheep grazing in between them
well,
and
that's what
stuff.
Duke was talking to us about, is goats and goats jump on top, but they want sheep
To keep the
graze
weeds
so they
down.
don't have to mow. Well, yeah, so,
Mow or spray,
or spray,
yeah.
but
I
anyway,
would say that most of them are gonna want bare ground underneath all of it.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, anyway, I
They
think-
want it, but the way they keep it is by having it
I think
grazed.
the question is do we take this damage to existing vegetation shall be minimized? I think we're all okay with that.
Yeah, we're good.
Good. Utility solar system buildings and accessory structures shall, to the extent reasonably possible, use material, color, and texture that will blend into the existing environment. There was a proposal to take that out.
It's pretty tough to do. I mean, they're gonna be
Yeah.
silver-sided or black-sided.
Yep.
I think this has got to be up to the landowner that's leasing the land
Yeah.
and the company, because we do that with the oil companies, and they can do
Yeah.
about 4 different colors.
Yeah, if it's
and
on.
you pick.
Yeah, if it's on BLM, they're regulated, but I agree, if
One
it's on
color
private
may change.
property, if that guy likes pink ones out there,
So
then
I'm-
he ought to
I'm
be able to
okay.
put pink ones out there.
I'm okay with taking out this. I mean, I just don't think this is where your neighbors just don't really get to dictate that, which is what I think that would be.
I'm good.
Right, the other one that we took
Jim and
out,
Paul, yell
Yeah,
if.
yeah, no, I
Okay.
agree.
No, I heard. I haven't disagreed with anything yet.
Okay.
the other one we took out was the facility shall have no advertising or promoting lettering beyond the manufacturer's or applicant's logo.
Why do we have that in there? I mean, I don't have any problem with taking it out, but I just wondered why we originally had that in there.
It was in what was originally adopted
Carry over.
last year.
Okay, well, I don't have any problem with taking it out.
Yeah, I think it ought to be taken out too, because cat is trying to get into solar panels, and I'll tell you, if they do, there's gonna be a cat sticker on the side. I mean, that's just the way it is.
On every one of them, and they're gonna be as big as they can put them.
Yeah,
So are we okay with that?
taking it
Yeah.
out.
We're okay with taking it out.
Okay. We'll just keep scrolling through.
Vote Hendry for your next run.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm recovering.
13B.
TikTok, we got 31 days.
There were some questions in 20,
might
for
go off the
10,
wagon.
20.
It'll be a while.
41020. Is that where we're at?
Yep,
Oh, I have some questions on 41013.
4, 10, 13.
Yep.
Solar generator,
Roof mount. Yeah, so, yeah, the roof mount stuff.
Ground mount,
Well, it says may not extend beyond the ridge line of any slope roof. I don't understand why that's in there. And may not extend more than 1 foot above the roof surface.
But in Natrona County, if it gets more than 2 inches off the roof, it's gonna get blown off anyway.
Well, we've got the ones out at that we use, are set up on top of a flat roof, and they sit much higher than this because they're at an angle. They sit 4 to 6 feet off, but they're on a metal frame that are attached. So I don't understand. I mean, if they're mounted appropriately, I don't understand where the issue is. And so much of that depends on what type roof you have, what the pitch is, and everything else.
yeah. I mean, I could go either way, but
I
it is
just-
funny that it's in there.
Well, I just don't see why we have it in there. That's my whole question is, if there's good justification, I don't have any problem with it, but I don't know why it was put in. And so I mean, if we can't, I would just soon take it out, because a lot of that is gonna be determined underneath the building code anyway, and not necessarily under zoning.
Christie, so I think this is kind of a typical, don't put stuff above your roof line because of the visual
Visual impact.
aesthetic side of it. That doesn't bother me. Is there a planning or reason other than that for this kind of provision?
I don't think so.
And I'm okay with it coming out.
I mean, you
Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's gonna go in, but based on the way the manufacturer puts them in.
Well,
Yeah, and if it's
and-
too much
Yeah.
weight.
And I
if
guess
it's
that's
gonna
what I
blow
was
out.
getting at. It
So
just,
let's-
that was my question, was why
So we're
is
just
not,
gonna
just
take
out
1 and 2
B.
out.
Just take B completely out.
Yeah. And then the next one is, on ground mounted, it said the height shall not be more than 25 feet. Again, that ought to be dependent on the manufacturer's recommendations and the engineer's design. Because it's like a lot of these now, and the ones that are gonna be in the solar farm, they adjust according to the
Son,
height of the sun and the direction of the sun. So they may, during the wintertime, they may have to be higher. They come up and that changes. And as long as it's an engineered design, I just don't have,
I don't know if you're ever gonna see one exceed
I
25
was
feet.
that's big, that's really tall.
I'd like to see this one stay in. I just think that if we're tying something to a house, then there are all kinds of considerations that come into play that I don't think we need the protections that we just took out. But in this case, you could put this about anywhere, and I'd like to see some structure on. So I'm kind of in favor of keeping this one.
Yeah, I think because I think what you're talking about, Dave, is something that's more temporary use rather than permanent use.
no, I'm talking about permanent use, because There, in a lot of, especially in the northern latitudes, they do change, the further north you go, the more they change the pitch. It's a permanent structure that's on the ground, but it-
25 feet up in the
Yeah,
air?
25 feet is,
I've seen them that high. I've seen them, it's like if you're up on the mountain where you don't have a good, where you can't reach the height to get to the sun, that's where I'm thinking, is that if you've got vegetation that's further out there that's gonna cast a shadow, or you've got topography that's gonna cast a shadow so you can't utilize it, that's where I'm saying the
but if they
engineers.
need it, if that's
Variance.
so, they
Yeah.
could get a variance.
I'm thumbs up on keeping this one in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm 25.
Okay, well, there again, I just had Y on there and
Yeah.
not anything specific. I just wanted us to talk about it, so.
Yep.
So
Okay.
now,
So now we're on 16.
16.
C
Truck
is
stops.
where the question is.
Truck stops.
16C, driveways shall not exceed 30 feet in width, no additional access drives to any street. So yesterday, we changed driveways to 50 feet.
Yes, we did.
that's transit on 15?
On 16C,
It's on 115, yeah.
50 feet.
Yeah, 50 feet is what we.
This is the whole reason, trucks were the whole reason we talked about
Right.
making it from 30 to 50. Everybody okay with 50?
I just, yeah, if it's an actual truck stop, though,
yeah, this is for an actual truck stop.
I'm not sure 50's enough. Because that means you got one truck turning in and out, but if it's a truck stop, you're gonna have one coming out and one coming in, and I'm not sure 50 in that case is enough.
But they can apply for a variance.
Okay.
And then the other thing is like at Dory Lou's, and this isn't the truck stop entrance necessarily, well, it kind of is through the whole thing. I mean, there's traffic, there are two guys going this way and two semis coming out, and, I mean, even off of the Hat 6 Road, before you even get to the entrance of the truck
It
stop.
doesn't say how many you could have,
So,
though.
There is a limitation in there
Wh-
on how far apart they have to be and everything else too, so.
Yeah, the spacing,
So.
25 foot.
But,
Well, take a step back. If I'm putting a truck stop in, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to make it convenient for the trucks to come in and out.
Right,
They're gonna figure out how wide and how many they need.
okay.
well, maybe
Well,
we
as
should
long as
change
they
that.
come in and get a variance, but it's gonna
Yeah, well-
have to be more than 50.
Well, with what Paul just said, though, maybe we should just go with something according to engineered design.
I think we need a standard so people can plan, and then if the plan doesn't, or if the standard doesn't work, they can come in for a variance.
Yeah.
So
That's
I'm,
fine.
I'm okay with 50, or I'm okay with leaving it at 30.
Well, let's
But
go
let's
50.
pick.
I think we go 50,
Yeah, 50.
and because
Jim?
of what we said already.
Right. Jim must be okay with 50.
50? All right.
I'm fine with 50.
Oh, damn it. I was just going to speak for you all day.
So then we're down.
He is still here.
I was thinking that mute button is helping me out.
We're down
I'm
to,
just trying to play catch, trying to figure out where we were and then reading it, so it's all good.
Yeah, that one wasn't on the matrix.
41020.
40920?
I have 41020.
I've got 5 things that say 40920.
Is that may have been previous to,
Uh,
40920 was
That was
in the
deleted.
previous versions. The updated version is 410.
So we're,
So we're in wireless communication facilities.
this is cell towers? Mm-hmm. Okay, then it is 41020.
Okay. I have D2, I think is the first one.
Or 10, 20,
D2,
Yeah,
20, which,
and my comment on that should be operator defined instead of,
sorry, I'm still trying to get there.
410D.
You might have gone too far.
I think I may have gone.
It's on 118.
I was thinking it's page 118.
Yeah, down at the
19.
bottom, down at the bottom of 118.
Oh, sorry.
Section 4.
There we go.
D2, location of new towers.
I wasn't sure what was being requested on this one.
This is the provision, this is the area that talks about the prioritization of where we want these towers,
Yep.
right?
Yep,
And so it says, what, public, on county or other publicly owned facilities, then on existing towers, then, I mean, it just kind of keeps, and then in certain, like, high industrial, low industrial, okay. So what's the?
well, I just think that some of that stuff ought to be according to what the operator is requesting, instead of coming up with, you know,
Well, what this is for is to try to make the utilization of towers that are already in place. So we've got towers out there, there's existing towers out there, so they don't want to build another tower right next to a tower that has space for an array already. So that's kind of where this is leading.
The goal-
I can understand that, but at the same time, you're going to force companies to have to work with somebody else and be held hostage as far as what they're going to cost, the cost is going to be as far as sharing a tower and stuff like that.
I
That's
think-
where I have a problem with it.
Yeah, I think we're okay here the way it is, just because you do have this provision that says if the proposed site is not proposed for the highest priority listed above, the county may request a detailed explanation as to why a higher site priority. So this is like the race to everybody, the gold rush to put a tower up everywhere because there's big money in it. I don't personally think we need towers everywhere. So I kind of like this structure, and it still allows the developer to come in and say, well, this isn't working because those guys are idiots or they're being mean, and they won't let me on the tower. Oh, okay, then you can have one.
We've said that a lot of times, that it's got to be able to co-locate other towers on it. But then when that company goes to them and wants the tower on it,
They say, yeah, they put a price that's so astronomical, they can't afford to do it, it's not cost effective. And that's where I have problems with it, is because you can't dictate to,
All it's doing is prioritizing. It's not saying that they can't. It's just saying that they're prioritizing.
look into it.
Yeah.
And so I'm good with it.
I'm good with leaving it.
So the only question I have is the last sentence there, agreements between providers limiting or prohibiting co-location is not a valid basis for any claim of commercial impracticability or hardship. If I can't put it on there, I can't put it on there.
that's a hardship, and that should be taken out. That's kind of where I was going with that, is.
Well, I guess what I'm getting back is, we're saying they have to address why they're not doing it. If the tower is not capable of taking it, or the provider there that owns the tower is not willing to let me put one on there, I don't know why
Which number?
I'm on
C.
C.
See,
Last sentence?
I mean, if they're charging you more than it would
I mean,
cost to put up another tower.
Well, and that's where my whole thought pattern was associated with this, is because we have seen that, and it's gonna get to be more and more effective. I don't have it,
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting, you address all that, and then I don't understand why you would say agreements is not a valid basis.
I can ask legal
Yeah, because
about that one.
Yeah, because I would almost strike that last sentence, because you address that they have to discuss co-location.
So are we supposed to read that the lack of an agreement between providers is limiting or prohibiting? I don't know what we're really I don't know what
We
that
can't
sentence means
force
exactly.
either one.
You
of them.
can't force either one of them to do it,
Yeah.
and because it's a private,
Oh,
it's a
oh.
private deal.
Yeah.
And so that's basically, and then we're saying, well, if that other company says, well, we're not gonna let you do it, or it's gonna be so astronomical,
Oh, I think, what about this, though? Is it because if, not to name names, but say the one that's a cell provider that looks like a V, and they start having an exclusivity in all their deals to prohibit anybody else, the T or the U, from coming in on that tower.
they already
So-
do that. If you go west of town,
Well, but they-
and it's not the V, it's one of the others that won't allow anybody else to use their towers, and that's the reason why we have such poor cell service.
Well, that Verizon couldn't be on Unions in the Shirley Basin, and now it's back on there after 8 years or whatever, because they got they
Right.
renewed the lease. So if we take this out, then is it the easy workaround for all these companies? So I think we need to be careful about taking this out until we understand it.
Okay,
And-
that's fine. Like I say, the way I'm reading it above, you are to address the
Right.
co-locate. But simply saying you can't do it is not enough. I don't,
Yeah.
it seems like it's,
Item number D says that if the above criteria are not met, we may approve any site located within an area in the above listed priorities if it's in the best interest and will not have a,
deleterious.
thank you.
Yeah, so it kind of has its own variance built within it.
Yeah,
You just gotta say it real fast.
okay, so leave it in for now.
Sure.
and if-
We'll-
Yeah.
We'll ask legal and see if there's
Whatever.
any, yeah.
I didn't, yeah.
I wish the
right.
technologies were all the same, but
It's
the
the game.
technologies are all different too.
What's the next one?
The next one was F, 7 through 10, which I didn't understand. Which number are we on again?
41020.
41020. Then I have F 7 through 10, but I don't have a 7 through 10 on here.
Oh, it's page
It was,
121.
I'm sorry. 7
121.
could be a conditional use permit. Did I have the wrong thing?
I'm on page 121.
Yeah, and I don't see. I don't-
You were too far into the subheadings, Chrissy. It's 20, it's,
Yeah, that's where I'm at.
7 through 10, these right here at 121.
So what's the, Dave,
It
this
says-
is yours?
Why are these in here? Are these the ones you had a question on?
Which ones are we?
Page 121,
Bottom of page 121.
starting with 7.
Uh, 10 could not be deleted because it refers to codes they have to comply with. 7, the note says could be a conditional use permit condition, but most of these have references that are specific to WCFs, like stealth technology.
No, that's not why I said why. What I was getting at, and this is what I talked to Eric about, was does this need to be specifically in the zoning, or can it be moved?
Building permit?
Yeah,
I think it's.
that's what I was asking the why about, was because so much of this stuff is very specific, and what I'm afraid of is if we have this in the zoning, that it's gonna take more for us to change it as the statutes change and stuff like that. So there's some of this that I was just trying to make it so it was more streamlined and easier for us to stay up to date with what the current regulations are, instead of,
I'm okay with this. just
Yeah,
in
you know,
the-
I'm all right too, because when we
Helps with
put it in
planning.
there several years ago, it wasn't, I think, ran down and got somebody else's and stuck it in here. And it didn't take all that long, because we were able to approve it. So you can work with it.
Jim, Paul?
I'm good with leaving it in.
We were getting more and more of these facilities, and even the solar stuff we stole from Rock Springs, I
Well,
think.
and I guess that's basically all I was asking, is if it would be easier with the change in technology, with the changes in the designs and everything else, is just like that last tower that we approved, that's out, in the industrial park. That was a totally different design, because it designed to collapse on itself.
I think in the
Yeah,
future.
and that's all I was getting at, is as far as with the technology changing continually and the improvements and everything else, that's all I was,
Yeah, you may have to change this whole thing, because I'll
Yeah.
bet you in
Well,
4 or 5 years.
that's what I was getting at. That's the reason why I was saying, if we could put it where it was easily upgraded or changed out,
If they
that's
come
all.
up with a new
The next one is
technology, though,
I.
you'll want it.
What page?
Performance security 123.
123. Okay, performance security.
Performance security, Dave's comment is the performance security is too low at $1,000 per tower.
That was
I
yours too, Peter.
don't know
that,
what the legal,
I will tell you, based on conversations I've had with the city and what the state is doing with their wild link towers, we are so under
Yeah, 10,000 wouldn't be too bad.
what all the others are charging on it for rentals, as well as probably everything else, so.
What do we, so.
I don't know what everyone else is doing, but I'll bet it's more than $1,000.
I wouldn't mind $50,000, because it does not cost much to go get a bond. I mean,
No.
And once you get it, I don't think it costs hardly anything to get it bumped up to whatever. So I don't know,
Well-
I wouldn't mind seeing 50 on that.
I wouldn't either, at least 50, because if we're talking about a security, if they walk away from it, then we're stuck with it. And
Yeah, this
you can't do anything for
about,
$1,000.
This isn't a
bucks.
$50,000 check that you have to give the county.
So this is
No,
like,
it's not,
This
it's
is
a
an insurance
bond.
policy.
It's an insurance bond, is
Yeah.
all it is.
this is the same thing you do when you get an oil well.
That's
Yep.
right.
You
That's,
have to go post a bond that,
Yep.
right now, they're minimum 100,000.
yeah.
And I think it costs us like 300 or 400 bucks a year.
Yeah.
But if I have to go, if the state has to go P&A it, at least they can call that bond, and it's not on the backs of the taxpayers.
Well, and that's what I
What
was
amount?
getting at, is that, so that we don't end up having to pay to remove something that
Yeah,
gets
the 1,000,
abandoned.
yeah.
Yeah, and 1,000 is not nearly
Yes.
enough, and 50, right now, 50 is probably okay for some of these structures.
If you want 100, 50 or 100, what do you think, Paul, Rob?
So,
what I
well,
was
so now
thinking
this
about
is,
where the landowner is in this.
so the first part of it says you have to have security except cover the cost of removal. So what is the cost of, so that is different than an other form of security must be in the amount of $1,000 per tower. So I don't think we're saying that $1,000 is the bond. I think we're saying, because up above there, a letter of credit or execute a bond or other form of security acceptable to cover the cost of removal. And then that other sentence, and other form of security.
we can put a pin in this and ask Eric.
Yeah. Because I think there's probably something in there that we say you have to have a bond of sufficient to cover the removal. And there may be an actual number that we're not listing here.
So the only two ways I've seen this is either a bond or a letter of credit.
Yeah.
An irrevocable letter of credit saying, yep, here you go.
Yeah.
And then the bank has to be comfortable giving the letter of credit, that the guy has enough deposits in the account to
Yeah.
give the letter of credit, so.
And I'd rather have the
I
bond
like
personally.
the bond,
I
too,
like the bond
because
better
the company
because,
will go broke
y-
and
well,
won't
that's
try to
exactly,
do it.
that's exactly what,
Right, and those are already above there.
Yeah.
So I don't, that, and another form of security must be, I don't know what that other form of security is that they're talking about, because either you're gonna give us a bond or a letter of credit.
We can ask Eric and come
Yeah.
back to it either later today or
Okay.
on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Just protect the landowner and us too.
Hey, Chrissy,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can you get in touch with Melissa and find, and I'm sure this came from Park, can you find out what the thought process was behind this?
And maybe specifically why it's not a lot more than $1,000.
yeah,
Because I think we're all
$1,000 is nothing for, I mean,
uncomfortable.
for security. I mean, whether that's liability or
What's the
whatever
next
else,
one?
Next
that's not
one
very
is
much.
M.
Now, did we do Paul's 20D2? Up above.
Yes.
Yes.
We did 20D2.
So 20M?
I took one of those, I actually took one of those, Met towers down, and I think I sent him a bill for $2,500.
You're
But-
silly.
You're cheap,
So, M
What'd you
is
take it down
the,
with? Dynamite or?
pretty close.
I cut the cables on one side and it went
So it's actually pretty good
all
is
down
the-
now,
per,
boys.
per hour.
Heads.
$2,000 an hour.
It's really, yeah.
now I can't talk. I'm laughing.
Indemnification.
Thank you.
Indemnifications.
The request was it should be covered in the CUP, but again, if it's not in the zoning, putting it in a CUP can be more challenging and you can get,
Where we at?
paid bottom of page 124.
What about the liability insurance? On L1.
L1, so we're
Yep,
going back up.
L1, I think that's too low.
Again, I can ask,
Because so many of the other things, we require $1 million
or
liability.
two.
Yeah, on
But-
almost everything anymore. And, I mean, that just seems to be, I know every outfit I worked for required $1 million or more. Yeah, well, I mean, or more. That was the minimum. And liability insurance at $250,000, that won't cover anybody's hospital bills anymore. So,
And I would bet that they probably already carry more than that. I don't even know if you can get something that low.
Should we want to raise that or just leave it?
I think we ought to raise
Probably
it.
raise it,
I think
raise it
to
$1,000 or
$1 million.
Well, why don't we have Eric check
That might
on
be
this
another
too?
Question too.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is governmental
Immunity.
immunity and the
That's what I
Claims
say.
Act, and there's a maximum. And if, are there any ramifications of us in our zoning saying it needs to be more, and then somebody coming along and saying, well, then, because that has
Governmental
been
immunity starts at
But we
two.
are-
It's capped at
a
250.
reason why you don't have a requirement that it's more, and Bill Lubin used to scream about it,
Yeah.
and I shouldn't say that, but Bill educated me that then you're opening potentially an argument that they should get more than the statutory immunity liability amount, so.
And I say, Eric, probably through Warm, can probably answer that question.
And but we do require people to have more than, the county does require to have people to have more than $250,000 liability right now, too.
Okay, so then we're back
To M.
to M, and I think we've got to have indemnification in this, because I think that in a CUP, just Dave, to go to your point, I don't think we can rely on that. I don't want to rely on that to protect us just in case it gets dropped or lost in a particular CUP application or permit itself. So I like the indemnification of the county,
Especially if it's for county property.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good.
Who had that?
That was one of yours?
Yeah.
And then it's down to N. Dave's question is, why is this in zoning?
And that was basically that's what my discussion was earlier, as far as whether it could be separate.
So we're gonna keep it in.
That's where I'm at. 1104.
So then we're down to 1104. So the accessory uses, there's been so much change in the accessory uses. Let's just scroll through this together, because a lot of the things that were requested to be deleted were deleted like completely out, not just stricken through.
Okay.
So don't look at our comments, look at what we have here.
Let's just walk through this, because it's
Okay.
not gonna match up to the comments unless you have another copy to
Okay.
go back
If
and
we
forth.
go down.
So if we look at
keep an eye on
it, we look at what we have on our screen, that's what we ought to be going off of.
That's what we, yeah,
Okay.
so let's just go through, we've updated the purpose, the approval procedures, and tell me what speed we need to go through this. The first one is talking, just in general about the accessory uses, that they're, you know, an accessory subsequent to the principal.
So maybe just give us a second.
Yep.
And we'll, because I think we're all trying to read through it.
So in looking at this, the blue is new, and there's no strike through, so this is, you've already taken stuff out.
There's a little.
Okay. So really,
There's some strike through, but a lot of what was discussed in a lot of that P and Z stuff was taken out per that P and Z
Okay.
draft. So none of the numbers line up.
okay.
I don't have any problem with it as it reads now. 1104.
When you get to 1104D, we did take landscaping out of that. And we did take the height requirement for an accessory use out.
Okay, that was F that got removed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is that off of my table? That's above your table.
What did you decide?
Oh, I got some right here.
What did you go get?
You should see the,
Donut day at Sherry's.
He brought donuts. You missed out.
No idea.
Are we at 41105 yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the actual dwelling unit, so your mother-in-law.
Or father-in-law.
We are, father-in-law.
Well, up under 41104D, no, C.
Wait,
How does
which
that
one?
read?
411 what?
So non-enclosed stables, gazebos, greenhouses, and carports 10 feet or less in height with a roofed area of 300 square feet or less are exempt from any standards of this section. So they are not considered an accessory
Okay,
use or
so-
structure.
Your 300 square feet is
10 by 30, so,
10 by 30.
or thereabouts. 15 by 17.
That's the exemption. If you're over that, then you go to the next, you go on down,
If,
okay?
if you're over that, then you are an accessory use or structure, and
You
these
go on down to the
apply.
next one, okay, all right.
Down, are we down to,
1105?
yeah, 1105 yet?
Yep.
Okay.
I think everybody on 1105?
Yeah. The one I have problems with though is 6. I think that should be relative to the size of the principal dwelling. And not state that it has to be no more than 1,000 square feet.
So the point in this is to allow an accessory dwelling, but to not increase the density of the lots so that you would have 2 full-size residents on one lot, and to keep the structure under that 1,000.
But there are a lot of manufactured homes out there that are bigger than 1,000 square feet. And if you're looking at across the board, as long as they can meet the requirements of the DEQ and the health department as far as the septic and the water, and they're not compromising that, I don't think we should be telling people that they can only put 1,000 square foot house addition
And
accessory dwelling,
and meet
because,
the setbacks.
yeah, if they meet all the setbacks and they meet all the requirements and everything else, I just don't think that we should be telling people that that's as big as you can build your house.
The only issue I see with, I don't like, some of the aspects of 1,000 square foot, because I think it's arbitrary. But the issue, I think, is, the real possibility that you're turning a single-family sized lot into 2 single-family residences, and therefore, you're almost getting into some subdivisions. I mean, do you see how one, quote, accessory building and one principal residence can look a lot like 2 principal residents? And then the county gets, the reason I think 1,000 square feet might be the best way to approach this is because then the county doesn't get into knocking on the door and saying, is this really accessory, or are you guys related, and all these other things, where if we've got a size that should fit a lot of situations, and I think 1,000 square feet should fit a lot of situations, then it's less involvement by the county.
I think I just think it's way too small.
Well,
That is not that's not a very big building.
So so are you saying that it shouldn't be more than 50%? Because, 50% of the size of the personal residence? What is your number, or what's your percentage?
Well, I'd be more inclined to say that than I would be to say 1,000 square feet, because that's the reason why I said smaller than the principal
Well,
residence.
most of your modulars would be somewhere between 1,400 and 1,800 square feet. So you
Yeah.
want to say 50, because then you're less than 1,000.
Yeah, and so like I said, I would prefer it to say less than the principal resident, because if
You
you got
mean
a principal resident that's 1,500 square feet,
So it's got to be less than.
the principal resident. Yeah, if you have a lot of land and you've got a kid that's helping you out or something else that has 4 kids, that's not going to work very well with 1,000 square feet. As long as they can meet they have to be able to meet the rest of the requirements as far as the setbacks, the overall coverage, and they have to meet the health department's requirements as far as whether they're going to be able to pass septic or provide water. Then they can't sell them individually, because it says they have to be owned by the same owner.
I
So-
think we're opening up a big can of worms if we say that it has to be, like, is that 1 square foot smaller than the principal structure? And so then you have a 5,000 square foot principal residence and a 4,900 square foot accessory dwelling. I think this can be gamed if we don't have either a percentage of the principal residence or a maximum. In this case, it says 1,000. Sorry, Christie, what were you going to say?
If I can just put context onto it. So RAM is exempt, UA is exempt. So we're talking the residential areas.
Okay, and that's it.
So we're talking the residential mountain.
Okay.
I was just gonna ask you.
But even if you're, even if you're on,
MR1 is in that,
Yep.
but the goal of MR1 is to keep it less dense. And again, these are, a standard two-bedroom apartment is right around 900.
Right.
So as far as an accessory,
And if they wanted
size.
to, if they wanted 1,200 instead of 1,000, they come in for a variance.
they can come in and ask.
but it's still, if you have, I still go back to the same thing. If you have the property that allows you to meet all the other requirements, I just have a hard time with us telling people that they can't build an accessory dwelling on that that's bigger than 1,000 square feet. 1,000 square feet is not very big.
Well, if you've got a big piece of property on the mountain, on top of the mountain is MR1.
Yeah, it was a 5-acre minimum.
Well,
Yeah.
but if you've got 40
you've g-
acres up there,
Yeah, why
this
can't you
doesn't
build?
count.
Yeah,
You have one,
You have one structure.
one accessory structure.
Yeah,
That's-
well, they
that-
come in for a variance though. Okay.
but that's where I'm getting at, is that if you have enough property that you're meeting the requirements, why are we telling people that they can't build a house, an accessory dwelling more than 1,000 square feet?
There is,
Th-
I
th-
think
that's-
of one property up there that's got a lot
I-
of country, and
I-
they could
yeah.
build 3 or 4.
I do too. And it's just the same thing with MR2 along the face. There's a lot of that out there that's the same thing. That
But they
have,
can come in though for a variance. And so if they've got enough country and they can prove that, yeah, it's far enough apart, and
Jim, what do you think?
So previously, we have had 0. So you couldn't do this previous
At
to
all.
this zoning
So this is a
rewrite.
start.
So this is a start. So from my professional opinion, as a start, a lot of communities are opening to an accessory use that's small, to see how that impacts the density and population in those areas. So if it's something that's starting to be used and we want to see more of it, or we want to change our density, we can come back to it in a few years, after we've seen the impact of the allowance.
I'm good with it. If they can, if it's 1,000, they can come in for a variance if they need to. You know, healthcare, you know, you may want to move your father in next to your family member and take care of them instead of putting them in a facility at $15,000 a month. So, yeah, let's leave it at 1,000, but if they can come in, if they have an 1,100 square foot thing they want to move in there.
Paul, are you
I'll
okay
leave it.
with it?
Sure.
All right. So that brings us to the drive-through facilities. As an accessory use to a business. We have stacking requirements, setbacks, the number that you can have. Any issues with those?
Sorry, we're on 41105B,
B, page 128.
okay?
What are we?
wait a minute, I got some stuff back on.
Stacking is how many cars you can put in a drive-through. So like how,
Okay, okay.
I've got some questions about 1104
So we're
before we get to that location, or
Which-
before we get to that.
which one?
41104. Specifically,
Oh, we're going back,
access,
back
okay,
up. Okay,
specifically E,
Which one, E?
starting with E and moving down.
So we're talking about 41104E on timing.
41104.
timing?
E, yep. Where it's talking about accessories that you have to have, you can't put your accessory building in prior to or you have to have a principal?
Your building
You
plans
can.
must be submitted. So you can build your accessory use as long as your primary building plans are submitted.
What
So
if you're not putting in a primary? Why can't you put in,
Because it's, by definition, it's accessory has to be connected to,
but it
the
says
primary.
accessory use? And I guess that's where my question is, if I want to put something on my property, a building that's not associated with the, I'm not planning on putting a residential structure there. That's where I'm coming from on that. If I want to put a barn so I can store my equipment in or something else on a piece of property, and I don't plan on building a resident on that property, but I plan on putting my stuff in there, i.e. my cars. Why
It's
can't?
not an
why can't-
accessory
Accessory
then.
building, it'd be the building.
It'd be, yeah, you better
Correct.
just fall
And-
under
It
the
wouldn't be
general.
under this.
Okay,
Correct.
well, I guess the fact that it said accessory use is what,
Right.
not accessory building, but accessory use is where
It
That's
wouldn't
where I
be under
had-
This section, then.
it wouldn't be an accessory use because there's no primary.
It'd just be a building permit for the barn or the building or tool shed, and that's it.
well, and that's where a lot of this is just verbiage.
Right.
And I'm just trying to make sure that I understand what the verbiage is actually saying, so.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
so some of that, Dave, was, there was that problem there with the current and the proposed earlier on with exactly what you're saying. That's why this was revamped to the point where it is.
You want
That is no longer the barn or whatever on some other piece of property. That's going to be, it's just a building. It's not, it doesn't have to be linked to a primary residence anymore.
Okay, well,
Correct.
that was my whole question about that whole portion was.
Yeah,
so-
that's all stems from the old stuff.
Okay, all right, well, that's fine. I just, a lot of this stuff just you read through it and it's like, well, okay, where are we at? So, okay, as long as we can do that and we can put a building on something that's not a principal residence then I'm fine with it. So,
So then we were back to the drive-through facility at the bottom of 128.
Uh-huh.
All right, and then moving on to, we've made a lot of changes in this home occupation to try to clarify the definition of this use. So it's a home occupation is an occupation or activity carried on by the persons residing on the premises. Said occupation shall not constitute a nuisance to the surrounding properties and shall be clearly incidental and secondary to the residential occupancy. It may be permitted as an accessory use, subject to the
hey,
following
Christie, hold
standards.
on just a minute. Let me find that.
On
So,
Page 129.
129.
One head at top of 1299.
okay, all right, I'm sorry, I was trying to find it.
So we took out the number of home occupations. We did leave employees, no more than 2 full-time may be employed at the home occupation. In here, we exempted, I think we were exempting RAM from that. And that may be further down, or it needs to be a change that I'll add.
What about UA?
We can add UA to that.
I would, just because of a lot of the areas that are in UA.
Where are we? I
Where?
thought we were on C.
On C, yep.
I'm looking for zoning districts. Am I not?
It's not in there currently, so we would need to add them to the employees.
So I guess I'm just gonna say, because I'm not following, and I want to understand what you're proposing, but I'm okay with C the way it's currently shown on our screen. I think we've, so what are you guys talking about?
Sorry. The one edit that I would suggest is for the employees. The restriction is no more than 2 non-full-time residents may be employed at the home occupation, that we exempt at least RAM.
And I recommended that we add UA in there as well as RAM, because so much of our stuff is UA now.
What's minimum acreage for UA?
10.
Paul, what do you
I'm-
think? You okay with making an exception for those 2 zones?
Yeah.
I am too. Thank you for going slow there for me.
All right. Then we've removed some of those other items. Any other comments on those? That brings us to D, which was security quarters. E is the utilization of manufactured homes for storage purposes. We talked a little bit about that yesterday on the use tables.
Okay, which one you're looking at, D or E?
E, page 130.
I didn't see any remarks on any of these.
The only thing I had was on 3, was the location. I think that ought to be up to the property owner, not
Which one are you on?
on 3.
E3.
Yeah.
So
D3, it says that you have to put it in the rear yard of the principal structure.
Now,
And
we're-
if you're talking about security, that's not the best place to put a security.
Oh, this is,
We're on E,
we're on E.
but we can go back to,
Well, D is just right above it, is where I was talking about.
Okay.
That's one of the things I had.
well, are we okay with E?
Yeah, I don't have any comments on E. It
Okay.
it
I
was
think
just
that-
on D. I did on D, I did.
Okay.
I had it on 3 and 4.
So on security quarters,
Yeah, it's just right above there. It just says that they have to be oriented and due to the rear yard of the principal structure. That is not, from a security aspect, that is not the best place to put a security building.
So,
yeah, this is just their residence.
I
Like,
know, but
Yeah.
if they're living in their residence and that's their primary job, that sometimes is a lot easier to maintain security if you can see everything that's coming and going.
no.
Yeah, but
so-
that's
so
not the building.
The security entrance would be manned. This is just for their housing.
Yeah, it's exclusively,
This
You usually don't have housing right at the entrance.
yeah, it's just the quarters, so this is just the dwelling. This isn't where they're sitting, drinking coffee and eating donuts.
But, but a lot of them are one and a lot of them are one and the same. That's what I'm getting at. They may, depending on what the facility is, they may be one and the same. If you're in a security area that you require that, it's easier to have have them living right there where it's coming in, and they can still utilize that as their security office. They can be one and the same. That's what I'm getting at is,
Jim, did you, I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
But Jim was trying to,
Yeah.
Jim, what were you saying?
Jim?
No, it's just, this is quarters only. I haven't seen quarters being utilized as the security shack generally in my experience other than out on locations. But I mean, if the company has justification and if they've got the room and the space, then
Well, they can come in, would
Well-
have to come in for
well, that's what I'm.
there's always a variance.
a variance.
Well, I know, but I mean, if that's in their site plan and that's the way they want to build it, I guess I have a hard time saying that they need to have a variance for that. If they've got the room and the facilities to do that, they ought to be able to put it where they want to without having to go through a variance on something like that. It's just, to me, it just doesn't make any sense to sit there and dictate.
Yeah, Dave, I guess my thought is that unless if this is just about aesthetics, then I think we should take it out.
Well, and I think that's all it is.
So I'm okay with taking out 3, location.
That's fine.
Okay.
Here again, I think this is one where,
It's not gonna come up every week?
yeah, if it comes up and we have a facility that needs security,
Well, I think we're
the
gonna,
odds are they're probably, right now, given the number of vacant buildings we have in the county, I don't think you're gonna see a new one built that this is gonna be applicable.
What's the next one?
The next one would be, I had a comment on E.
well, I also had 4. It's as far as, and that goes right along with that same thing as far as the size of the facility that they're allowed to put in for security, for the dwelling. If you have more than 2 security officers that are staying there, you need more than 1 room.
One
That's,
bedroom.
that's basically all it amounted to, is just, that should be dependent on the landowner, again, according to what their needs are, and not dictated that you can only do this. That's all, that's the only reason why I'm saying that.
I think you've got mission creep here, though. But again, you've got, we're getting into a place where I think the variance process would work for this one real well. Somebody comes in and says, this just isn't, we actually need 5 individuals for security. And so then we're gonna, I think a commission and a planning commission and the planning department would say, oh, that's totally fine. And they'll be able to make their case. So I'm okay with this one being in.
Yeah, I think they come in and talk to, if there's 5, they're gonna have a bunkhouse, they're gonna have bunk beds. Probably 1 bedroom and a bunk beds. I'd say
Paul,
leave it.
I'm good. I'm kind of in this,
not a big,
it's not, I think we're there. I can't think of a single facility that we have in the county
I
where any
can't
of this
either.
would be, where this is even happening now.
I'm like Jim, I think on a rig it might happen, going into a rig location, something like that, but not a building.
so
It-
E is
it-
the next one.
E was the next one. And I
Right.
think we're good on that one.
I think this one took care of itself when we
Yep.
took out nuisance,
Yep,
because that was my comment.
okay.
Okay.
Temporary uses are what we're on next, so 412. I had a comment on 3. So 412.3, general standards for temporary uses. Y, 6 and 7. And
On 3, the reason why I don't like that, because if you're gonna be doing something, what are the definition of permanent alterations to the site? And even if it's a temporary use, you're still doing permanent alterations unless you're gonna go back in there and put it exactly back where it was. There are gonna be permanent alterations. And so I may be splitting hairs on that, but even if it's a temporary, I don't know of a single temporary use that you can use that you don't change the complexion of that property for the long term. So,
And 6 is asking that at the end of your use, that you restore it and improve it to the condition that existed prior to the use. So it's that leave no trace principle of leave it better than you found it, do what you can.
but that doesn't happen. that's very expensive to try to reclaim it back to the original use, unless you're going in. If you're going in and you're removing topsoil or anything else, even on the rig sites, you have to put stuff back, but there's, for the most of, you get close, but you don't get it back to 100% of where it was. You'll never get it back to 100% of where it was. Not in this country.
But if you,
It's usually better.
yeah, usually it's just as good or better, and the alterations would be if you put a foundation in or a crawl space in the top of a building. But when you take it out, you take all of the cement out, you take all of that stuff out, so it really isn't a permanent deal.
But they don't do that with the turbines. They cover the concrete that's in the ground. They leave it there.
Yeah, that's true, but that's covered under another,
Well, I know, but I mean, but it is,
they'll take it
I'm
down
just,
below the ground.
I'm playing devil's advocate on this.
Right.
And so,
But as far as the surface, you'd never know it.
I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I'm okay with it too.
All right.
Paul?
Yeah, I think the key word here is temporary. I think if you look at other things, they're not really temporary.
Dave, did you have another question?
I did down on 6. I just, there again, change the shall to may. Down at the last sentence.
That it shall be restored or improved?
All disturbed areas, shall be restored and approved to a condition that existed prior to the use. I said may be, or may, or either may or should, but not shall, for that very reason, because it may or may not be.
I think you ought to leave it in, the shall in that one. Because then they can come in and give you a good reason why they can't. I mean, even locations or anything else, you put it back to pretty close to the way it was. Might not be just exactly, but it's pretty well restored.
Well, I would be happy with if we put it back to an agreed upon condition, but not necessarily the shall. I mean, does that make sense? Because when you go through and you're bringing a site back to the location, as long as it's an agreed upon and it is acceptable, then that's okay.
But
But-
that agreement you're talking about could be the variance. So they could come in and that's the agreement, so I'm all right with shall on that one.
I am too. Paul?
I'm,
Okay.
being it's temporary, I think,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then we are at 41204A 1 and 3, it looks like. So this is your temporary use standards for recreational vehicles for temporary use. Understand temporary use in RAM and UA for agricultural uses are exempt. And this is for a period of over 90 days, or less than 90 days.
I was just thinking about the car wash out there on the west side. Is it Cowboy Car Wash or something? But you pull around, you don't go to the office now, you pull around and they've got an old van-looking recreational vehicle that somebody's sitting in to check you into the car wash.
That could be part of the commercial, actual office type structure. This is going out and living off the grid for temporary use outside of a campground. That the duration is less than 90 days.
Okay.
The number that you can have out there is the 4 for any agricultural property more than 10 acres, and 1 on any residential property. This is not what we are talking about in regards to a temporary dwelling for construction. This is outside of that. And then we're down to B for special events.
What, just a minute, though.
Okay.
Have you been out west of town at Macon Milk Dairy? I think they've abandoned that property, and there's 4 trailer houses that were set up to block the wind. It's going out west toward Riverton by that first wheat field. It's a stone ranch. And they've left that in pallets and lots of collectibles. But they've got, that they were living in, there was like 3 to 4 trailer houses they were living in, and I think they've abandoned them. And it's all left for somebody to clean up. And I think you'll have to send a letter to, they probably contract for deeds, so you have to send a letter to the guys that own it to clean it up. But it's a mess.
I'll share that with Lori.
So I just wondered how that fits into this, because they were recreational, they were their trailers.
But they were,
Fifth wheels.
but they were set up for temporary. They
Well,
were,
no, they were set up permanently.
Are
right.
they at ag use?
Well, I think that's in 40-acre tracts, but I'll bet it's in Ram.
It is.
You know where I mean, Jim?
I know where you're.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's, I mean, I got a picture of it. It's a wreck. I got a picture of it out of the air, and it's quite a cleanup process.
So the intent in this would keep it to 4 of those 4.
You don't want any more than 4.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it the way it's written. Jim? Paul stepped out.
No, I'm good.
What's that?
I'm good.
There are other ways to take care of it, but that is one circumstance that's a mess.
What's the next one, Christie?
The next one is, we're just going through special events. I don't believe we had anything on that. So I think we're down to 12.
Wait, did Dave, you have, why is this in here on the 41204B?
B?
Or was that a different one?
That's special events, sorry.
Am I off?
Nope, you were correct.
412 what?
04B, special events.
Boy, we're smoking right through there.
Well, there's
On
a ways,
132.
but yeah.
Not much.
Dave,
Some
what?
of these comments that I made were from the original.
Oh,
Some of the
okay.
comments were from the original document and not from this one that have been modified, so
So we're good?
well, I'm just saying that all my, going back and forth between documents and trying to remember which ones you actually were looking at. Because I'm looking at, I don't see anything until, said on my current stuff until 133
Okay.
on
So-
lighting. And that's,
The next one was 1204B3 would have been lighting, and we changed that per Jim's to have not directly. B5 was operating plans. The question was, why was this in zoning? Again, this gives us the ability to regulate what type of activity is happening and make sure that all the public health and safety standards are met. Does anybody have any?
Go back up a little bit.
To which one?
I'm just trying to, why do we have, under lighting, why do we have it shut off at 10 o'clock? That was my question, because there's a lot of events that happen that last a lot longer than later than 10 o'clock.
It's just a standard time.
For who? From who? From where? That's my question, is that why do we have that?
Well, so can they come in and say their event is, for example, maybe in a club, and let's have a big old
Mhm.
go-out party in the middle of the night, could they ask for it to go till 1 a.m. or
Yes.
something?
Oh, that'd be part of the permit.
That'd be part of, yes.
I think as a general standard, it's a pretty okay balance. The older I get, the more 10 o'clock seems like midnight.
8 o'clock, huh? Well, probably they're gonna have a lot more than if an event, they're gonna wanna sell beer, so they gotta have a permit to do that. They got lots of permits.
Lots of things to do. It's just one of those checks that's in there, that if it's an event that's gonna go past that, we at least can make considerations and,
As a
Yeah.
general standard. What do you think,
I'm good with it.
Paul?
Yeah.
Now, we got a not to exceed 70 decibels in there again. Did we change those to 80? Or do you wanna leave it at 70?
I think you ought to change that one to 80, because if it's a temporary event.
Because we changed those other
Yep,
ones.
if it's a temporary event, then 80 is still below the threshold.
We ought to make it somewhat similar.
I have a note to make it consistent
Yeah.
throughout.
Good, so we'll
Good.
make that change. Okay. To 60?
To 60.
How about 62?
All right.
Moving on.
We talked,
Shut his mic off, he's more than.
The older you get, the louder you want it to be, Paul.
this temporary
What?
dwelling.
The older you, yeah.
Number C is where we have that consideration for a temporary dwelling for a building permit, so that you have a place to live while you build your house. With that period of 1 year is the standard time frame due to the building permit, but if the building permit gets extended, the use can be extended.
Okay.
Okay, good.
Is that, we talked one time about sea cans. That includes if you wanted to have a sea can out there, right?
If Justin approved for you to live in it,
Okay,
would be the caveat.
all right.
And the recreational vehicle can be used, but it does have to be hooked up to that sewer and water that you'll have for
Okay.
your primary structure.
Okay.
And then we are into administration,
Chapter 5.
chapter 5. And again, my list got sorted out of order. I fixed yours, but I didn't fix mine. So I have that we're starting at 5:02.
On the table?
It looks like it was on the table. This is,
But it also shows that it's been addressed.
so that was addressed, 5:02 is addressed, thank you. So 5:08,
I had a couple of suggestions on zoning certificates and administrative adjustments as far
On
as.
which, where are you at?
That's in the table on 5.02.1, 502. And this is just an add as far as making it an appeal, making it so that they can also appeal the zoning certificate or the administrative adjustment to the BOCC as well as the other two.
Hey, Chrissy,
Yes, sir.
if you could just make a note that the formatting on the table needs to be fixed a little bit so that there isn't a dropped letter to the next line on the procedure column.
What'd you say, Jim? There's not a what?
It's just a formatting thing. It's my OCD. The
Noted.
procedure column needs to be expanded just a little
where,
bit.
so you don't
And
have
then
an
you
N
don't
at the end of
drop-
interpretation? Yeah.
Yeah, so where it
Just make
says
them
formal,
longer.
formal interpretation there, the N is dropping down.
Yeah.
Administrative is dropping, the E,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll get those fixed.
Yeah.
I have that we've added administrative to temporary uses, but you would like to, or appeals to temporary uses, but you would like an appeal to,
Zoning
zoning
certificate
certificate.
and administrative adjustments, just to the VOCC in addition, just to give people that option.
to the zoning certificate and which one? The, administrative
Zoning
adjustment.
certificate and
Okay.
administrative. Those are the only two that I had on there.
Are we all in agreement with that?
Because you've already added temporary uses and stuff like that for those and
Is there-
formal
is there-
interpretation, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a strong feeling either way. Are there any planning considerations about why we wouldn't do that? I mean, other than it's gonna take up VOCC time.
Well, I don't think you'll have very many of them, but they already have that option for a lot of other
That would-
areas, and so that's the reason why I just thought that that would give them that last opportunity to appeal if they didn't like it.
That would be, again, a legal question to find out the difference between the BOCC authority versus the administrative authority, if there's overlap, I don't know.
We don't need county legal to tell us that we can have another level of appeal. It's just our time.
That's right.
Is it, Jim, are you okay, or, I don't know if Jim had to step?
No, I agree. There should always be an avenue to appeal if necessary. So I'm good with it.
Or a second
Now,
appeal? Okay.
I know when I went through this, and I don't see the number of it, but on the appeal, there's a definition of when they appeal and the appeals board. The appeals board is the zoning board first and then us, or us first?
This shows that the zoning board goes first and then to us.
Okay.
So it would be- they
on
have to-
Building permit, we have a board, an appeals board.
Right.
They wouldn't fit into this anywhere. Okay.
No.
I think that was my question, where do they sit? But that's just for a building permit.
Correct.
This is all
Yeah,
planning.
that's,
Just planning stuff. Okay, all right.
All
Are we
right.
all good on
What's
that?
the next one? Yeah.
But it's 508 is what I have.
So, okay, let me go, I had another one,
No,
recording of the
No.
decision, and I don't know the numbers. This was in the old one.
recording of proceedings?
That's 50308. I told you I had these out of order. I apologize.
50308, where it'll be the county clerk, the
Um,
decision, and it will be.
It's on page 143.
143, okay, recording decision, okay.
Yeah,
So
we-
it's under G, once approved and after appeal, the decision will be filed by the county clerk. So is that just the minutes of the meeting? Or what are we having the clerk,
It's filed with the county clerk.
right?
So any of our plats and resolutions and all of that, I take down and have it filed with the county clerk.
So this wouldn't be, this record of decision, it's not anything more than we're doing right now?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
The one point that I have a note on that one is the 10 business days
Right?
is a challenge.
To get everybody to sign, like plats,
Correct.
to get everybody to sign them and then get them in?
Yes.
Okay.
it's, in
You
my
need-
mind, it's unreasonable I have a plat just sitting upstairs right now waiting for
Signatures.
the process. So to put an actual time limit on it is,
Yeah.
Be as soon
It
as
needs to be.
practical or something.
Yeah,
I like that within 10 business days.
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
this isn't recording in the land. records.
Well, that's what I was
This
thinking,
is just
yeah.
filing.
But you have to file it with the
Filing the
clerks,
plat, and that's-
and then it
So
goes,
we keep
then
a
it-
record of it,
yeah.
Okay.
not so
But the
it's-
appeals.
How about, I think actually, as soon as practical, but no longer than, pick some day in there, 15 days, 30 days, whatever, but some of them will sit for a month or better. And
We've had some of them that have been 6 months.
Yeah.
And then we've had to get
I
things
think- I think-
moving,
I think-
And that's not practical.
I think you do need a time.
Timeframe.
Tracy?
Well, I think it's.
Well,
not
Tracy's just
Tracy,
recording it.
it's-
It has to
Yeah.
come down
That's
to
getting
that point.
signatures on them.
and I know other municipalities, you can have your BOCC meeting, and then you have a year to file your plat and all of that.
So the minutes are recorded.
The minutes are recorded. So the recording of the decision, I don't have a good definition of what that is, if that's the minutes. The minutes would be a little over a month in order to get the minutes written and approved and recorded would be
But
within
all
a.
of the minutes are usually recorded anyway.
They
Of
are.
all of those meetings. And Michelle was to keep those minutes of those.
But the approval of those doesn't occur till the next meeting. So that's at least 30 days.
What about shall be promptly filed with the county clerk, period? Is that not
Yeah.
specific enough for?
Okay.
Or do we just leave it with the way it was, and the decision shall be filed
With the county.
with the
clerk.
county clerk, without any consideration of?
I just didn't know how much into those decisions we wanted to go. It was over and above just the minutes or just the plat or.
I
That
would
was my
like, I would like to see something after final approval that has to be submitted and filed with the clerk within a certain time frame, because
So you don't-
not until the final approval is done, but then after that, whether we want to make it 15 business days or whatever else, that way they know,
Not promptly,
huh?
not promptly.
I don't like promptly because that's up to interpretation. I know some people that prompt means 2 or 3 years down the road,
Well,
and I know some people that means 5 minutes from now. So if everybody had the same definition of prompt, it would be okay. But
so what are we saying? Because I see situations where it's gonna take 3 days, and then I see situations where it's gonna be taking a month or 45 days.
no, that's the reason why I say after final approval. So after everything's been said and done, that's after all the process has been gone through, then that's when the 15 days starts, business days.
Yeah.
That they have to file it with
Yeah.
the clerk.
But I'm kind of going back to what you said originally, as soon as practical, because in some instances, the final plat may not be the final plat for
Even ready to sign.
sign, so,
And I think that an interested party could take the county to task and say,
Yeah.
even if it's not 10 or 30 or whatever days, then you put the burden on the county to show why you're not doing it sooner. And because I've been on vacation, go find
That's just
somebody
go-
else to do it. So
Well,
I
a
think
lot
as
of
soon
times
as
those dates make a
practical-
difference. And it does, the date that it's
As
filed.
as soon as practical.
yeah.
Is
Yeah,
the-
going back to that makes
the
more
date.
sense.
Yeah.
You okay?
I think that's probably all right. I agree with you that some people's date is bad, but then we got to get it in as soon as we can, because those dates matter they need it filed. And it doesn't,
Well,
the date that it's filed is the actual date that it's good.
Well, that's the reason why I was saying after final approval, because after final approval, everything should be pretty close to being set in stone at that point. That's when it's a done deal. That's when we've approved it, instead of,
Yeah, I think it goes on when it was filed, so ASAP.
Dave, I hear what you're saying, but I think just to keep going, I think that we need more flexibility rather than less.
This isn't a hill I'm gonna die on, so.
We just gotta keep that clerk going. That's all we need to do.
The other change that was submitted was the 50308A, that the decision shall be provided by the applicable director to the applicant within, we originally had 3 days, we changed it to 3 business days. I would like to change that to 10.
10 business days? I don't have any problem with that, as long as we have it in there, that gives you time to get things taken care of.
That's fine.
10 business or just 10
10,
calendar?
10 business days. Because if you fall over, if you do it right before Thanksgiving, that pretty much limits, you got 2 holidays, or two weekend days, plus you got 4 holidays and 2. That kind of makes it a challenge.
Yeah, if they have a party this week, it takes them a week to get ready, the party a week, and then a week to come back to this world.
Christie, are we clear that the right to appeal starts not on the day of the oral decision, the meeting, but after they get the document? Because that's, you really want to know, so we're
Which,
clear on-
which number?
I don't know, but I
Okay.
mean, if we're sending this out to 2 weeks, and my appeal right's 30 days, right? If there's an adverse decision,
Mhm.
does the 30 days for me to read it and go find an attorney, and then that one's not gonna do it for me, go find this attorney or that one, and then pretty soon, I'm at the end of 30 days, or am I at the end of 2 weeks? So as long as the appeal period starts and commences on the date the written decision goes out, then I'd be okay with 10 business days. But I think that the longer we take it out from the oral decision at the meeting to whenever the written decision comes out, we've got to have clarity on that, because you don't want to lose those 2 weeks and have the applicant, aggrieved party, be screwed.
Written notification.
So I couldn't find it in here, but I want to make sure the appeal right starts on,
I have it here and I will
just make sure.
slide that in.
Okay.
If it's not already in there.
Okay, and
And-
I see under H is appeals, but that wasn't real helpful to me in terms of the start date of the
Okay.
appeal.
I agree with Peter on that, it needs to be defined.
That sounds completely fair.
Yeah.
So the appeal process is on 5/18. Get be going to that shortly.
5/18?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good, well, hopefully that it's already.
We'll double check that. So we were 308G, we took care of that. So I have 504D4.
Where did we land, a few days ago? Didn't we talk about scenic?
The scenic's out in the 1.
We talked about scenic and we took it out. Which number are you looking at?
D4?
D4?
Because
Um,
isn't that the proposal to strike the scenic?
Yes,
corridor use?
yes, sorry.
And so if we took it out before.
We ought to take it out here.
Taking it out here, is it?
Christie, I had some questions on 50310.
But are, Dave, just real quick, are we good with taking it out here in D4?
I'm good.
Okay. Dave,
Okay.
which one?
Which one, where are you at, Dave?
Well, I'm trying to figure out just exactly what my comments were. It was on 50310, and it would have been on NB 1 and 2.
Dave needs to turn on his mic.
I have it on. I just have
Hold
to
over.
talk into it.
Project a little.
10.
50310,
Extensions?
Yeah, extensions. I guess I guess my question was what is expressly allowed as far as an extension goes? That would be my first question.
I think that there are various uses that have different extension periods. So some things are for a year, some things were for 2 years.
What page?
It's
Top
on
of
145 at the top.
Okay.
And then the second one was prior to the application's lap of the applicable deadline. I was just wondering if that would be more, if we put something, a reasonable time frame, because some of these extensions, it just depends on what you're doing.
So on some of them, when you have a CUP that the use is approved, if the use hasn't been established within the year, the CUP is no longer valid. So you would need to come in before the end of that year period and file an extension with the zoning office so that we are aware of what your intentions are and what your difficulties were.
Okay.
So does that,
Yeah, like I said, it was more for clarification.
I have 504D4.
D4.
We took care of that one. So then 507E2,
507.
we took out approval criteria, page
Um,
148.
Go back to D4.
Approval criteria,
Well, yeah,
148.
yeah, and the thing that I have an issue with that is when we have and I'm gonna say exactly what I've said before on this, it doesn't matter what you do, you're gonna have an adverse effect on the natural environment, including air quality, water noise, storm water management, and wildlife and vegetation. It doesn't matter what you do when you develop stuff, you're gonna change that. That's
Where are you, Dave?
where are you at?
Four,
D4.
Yeah,
D4.
on D4, and it says application completeness review, what page?
Oh, no.
No, this is this 146, approval criteria.
146 in the middle of the page, where we took
Yeah,
scenic corridors.
yeah, we took out the scenic corridors.
Okay,
But I personally think that whole thing,
so what are you suggesting? Which,
to basically take out 4 completely. And the reason being is that because it doesn't matter what you do, you will adversely affect that. And I can see some of these environmental groups and some of the others coming in and using that against the county for approving a development.
It's not for a development, it's for the development plan. So it's for the 2016 comprehensive plan.
But I can still see them using that against us, against the county in a lawsuit, because when you start putting the rest of that stuff in there, it's all effective. I don't care what you do. When you go in and you do anything, whether it's a plan or whatever else.
I have a question. So on this, just to make sure I'm following, this is where the board can change this zoning by an amendment, right? So,
The-
so,
This is the development plan, I believe.
Yeah, this is a different page,
This is your,
This is
your,
146.
146.
146,
the development
Right
plan
there.
is the comprehensive
Yeah.
plan.
Yes.
It's right there.
And that's what I'm saying. Knowing how these groups are going, they're getting more and more radical. If you have that in there, we will pay a cost. It's not a matter of when or if, it's a matter of when, because they will come back and utilize that against you. They'll use that against the county. If you have that, saying that in, because there are adverse effects no matter what you do as far as development. And if we're changing zoning or doing anything else, that's something that they can come back and say, no, you didn't meet the criteria because you have a rat that's out here that if you go in there and disturb that he's not gonna have a place to live anymore. I'm just saying,
Right.
from experience, from working in the environmental side of things, that will happen.
So
But I
this,
think the whole purpose of this, Christie, if I can.
go ahead.
Sorry. I think the whole purpose of this is to not allow the county commissioners to do things in an arbitrary way. And, you know, kind of on this day, we're gonna have these impacts, and on this day, we're not. And so I think this is kind of tying government's hands by having this in here. So that's why I hear what you're saying, but I can kind of see maybe another side of it.
I can see both sides of it. So don't get me wrong, but I'm saying this opens us up. Because I've seen this repeatedly happen. You know, where these other groups have come in and utilized that. If we want to say something, I would just like to see us reword it. If we
To
want.
the extent possible, maybe, plan amendment will not, to the extent possible, have a detriment.
That would be fine. That would be fine, but I just don't, but basically the way it's written right now, it says you won't have,
You will not have.
that's right,
Unfortunately.
any
On-
demonstrable adverse effect. That is all in the eye of the beholder.
There it is.
It's subjective. It's completely subjective, and I just want something in there that's objective, that we have a specific criteria that we're looking at and not just pulling something out of the air.
Okay, and I think that the word demonstrable is a term of art that says you can't, it's not gonna be subjective. They have to demonstrate with evidence, and I think that word is kind of in that category of material, substantial, demonstrables. They have to come in here, or I guess we, because we're the ones approving an application. You know, it has to be supported, and we gotta be able to show that in front of the public. So I think that word right there helps prevent kind of the arbitrary forces of government. Anyway, we're just, they need to make a decision.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I would like to see it reworded, and I prefer, because I can see us going to court on this one.
Well, you could, but the next two are the same wording.
Now, remember, go back and look. Remember what this is looking at. This is talking about development plan for like Natrona County land use plan and stuff like that. So that's what we're talking about.
It's like just an amendment to it, and that's, we don't want to just be amending it every week. So anyway, I'm in favor of keeping this the way it is.
I think we helped it by taking the scenic part out. We don't want to get into view sheds.
I think you have to have something in there that stormwater management. I mean, if you go in there and put something in and don't handle stormwater properly, and it just goes wherever it wants, I mean, it's a very broad statement. It can be used for your benefit, and it can also be used against you. I don't know how you can, not have some type of language in there to that effect, that it would give you an opportunity to actually deny permits if they really do have a detriment on any one of those, whether it's noise. And I think a lot of the stuff we've gone back through, we have addressed air, water, noise, all those are in the criteria already in the body. So this is just a broad statement of what you're looking at.
Yeah, I'm good with leaving it the way it is.
Okay. Then we have 507 E 2 and
So about the neighborhood meeting?
no approval criteria. On 148, we changed that it will not, granting a conditional use permit will not cause undue, we changed it to unmitigated traffic, parking, or environmental problems.
What page are you on?
148,
Oh, the new one.
Yeah, I'm just trying to catch up.
I personally, so it said won't cause undue traffic. And then, Dave, or no, somebody had,
Dave.
anyway, now it says unmitigated. And I was thinking that it'd be substantial instead of unmitigated. So I think, I don't know. like,
If it's
what
substantial, if they,
It won't cause substantial traffic, parking, or environmental problems.
But if you have unmitigated, that means that you have to deal with it.
you have to deal with.
That's the whole thing about it. It says you have to deal with what the traffic issue is, so I don't have a problem with unmitigated.
Yeah, but I mean, we're talking about mitigating, in the environmental context, as you know, mitigating can be site-specific, or it can be mitigating by doing what I'm doing over on this east side of Casper. You know, see, I'm being a good steward environmentally. So on the west side of Casper, and that's where the word mitigation to me seems like it's a bad road to go down. Because we're not tying it to the property itself necessarily. Anyway, that's just why I didn't like it.
That's always been a good point. That's
I-
what they're.
But I don't read it that way because it says unmitigated traffic. It doesn't say unmitigated environmental issues. It says unmitigated.
Yeah, it's traffic, parking, or environmental. The unmitigated is applying to all three, the way it's written.
Well, maybe we ought to rewrite it so it says unmitigated traffic and parking and not the environmental.
Well, but that's the approval of the approval standards for a conditional use permit. That just means that the planning has to look at it.
Well, this goes back to the 6 criteria that, or 7 that they have to meet in order to get a conditional use permit. So this is just,
The only other thing, because I think this one is important. And Dave, I think that if we use a word like unmitigated, where, is that completely unmitigated? Is it partially unmitigated? Is it just a little mitigated? So, that was another kind of reason as an attorney, I don't know what I'm supposed to show or what the.
Well, we're back to the subjective versus the objective. I understand what you're saying, Peter.
I think
I'm not.
undue and substantial, either of those words is more objective than unmitigated.
well,
Substantial would work.
Substantial is fine.
well, I like both words.
Mr.
Because I'm thinking of where you all of a sudden are going to put a business in, and you're on a 2-lane road and you don't have a turn or a pull out in, and that's going to cause traffic issues. But they can, if they don't put a turnout in, so they can mitigate it, the traffic issue.
But the substantial problem is cured if they put the
Right.
turn lane in or whatever.
So you're basically saying if you put that in, you've mitigated the problem, so.
So what are you suggesting?
Undue or unmitigated?
Yeah.
That way, we're both happy.
You've mitigated.
Substantial or unmitigated.
Yeah, that would be fine. So substantial or
And
unmitigated.
then we'll let those guys with law degrees fight over it.
Yeah.
It just added 2 more words.
All right, so we are going to say will not cause substantial or unmitigated traffic, parking, and environmental.
Yeah.
The G is our next one, scrolling down that page. In order to make it consistent, we just changed the language from 180 to 12 months because becomes void without a year. So just a consistency.
How come you say 12 consecutive months instead of just 1 year?
Yeah, that would be a whole lot easier to say 1 year.
I don't
It
know,
says 1
Peter.
year
I mean,
above.
now this could be a legal term, 1 year or 12 consecutive months.
Well, it says 1 year above.
What if it's a
And then-
leap year?
See?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
you were
right.
right on, man. Boy, and it didn't take him long either.
I will make them consistent.
Okay, I'm good with it. Man, you're quick.
Scrolling down, this is the administrative process. I'm down to 509.
Page?
Oh, wait a minute.
We're-
Oh, no.
Have to go back up to 4
to
underneath 508.
I'm sorry, what was that?
508,
What page?
150 at the top.
balloon test?
Yeah. Now, you just tell me how practical that is in Wyoming. Try to do a balloon test today and see where it ends up. I'm just thinking there's a lot better way. It's on 4. It's at the top of the page on 150. Yeah.
What is it talking about?
It's talking about the towers.
Oh, wireless communication.
Yes, and they're talking about the balloon test so you can see where it ends up, where the visual impact is.
Well, here's the last sentence of that paragraph 4 says what? Says,
Alternative means of technology that accomplishes the same purpose.
so to me, that's enough. I mean, I understand.
I'm just saying, why put that in there and saying that that's something that we need to do is just say, when we can just basically say that you can do the other portions of it. And, that you have to have a process in place to show this. Because a 3-foot diameter brightly colored balloon,
I would say, knowing wind turbines really well, that you have no idea what 297 feet to the hub is until you are standing under it.
right?
Well, these are just.
These are
this is-
towers. These are communication towers. These are not wind turbines. These are communication
Well,
towers.
everything
The point is.
Yeah.
That you don't know, you think 100 feet sounds like, in one case, it sounds like nothing, in another case, it sounds like something crazy. Well, I think it's all in context and perspective, and I think the balloon test is super useful because visually, you're gonna let the public, I think there's a good reason for the demonstration of this or something equivalent. Get it
Oh, I'm not saying something but there's, in today's world, with the topography, with drones and everything else, that's all I'm getting at, is it something that you can actually do?
I think the point of the balloon test is valid, the purpose of it. How you achieve what the balloon test is what was, you can either put the balloon up or you can do an alternative means. I think the whole point is you want to be able to demonstrate visually, in practical terms, what 100 feet looks like.
Right.
So maybe the term balloon test isn't the best way to do it, but it's the concepts, what you're trying to accomplish, not necessarily a
That-
balloon test.
That's basically what I was trying to get at, is that I'm not saying that we should not have something, a process that's applicable. I
And
just,
On this language, and I get what you're saying, and balloon test is goofy of the last couple days, right? Or the wind season. but-
Yeah.
but
yeah,
on
your
this,
balloon
I'm
test is
fine
gonna be
with
like
it.
this.
Be on the ground.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm
Yes.
good too.
it could also be the jargon for
Yeah.
that test
Yeah,
as a standard,
yeah,
that's referred to in that industry.
yeah, and I'm gonna guess that's where it comes from.
Could you say, because it was brought up a minute ago, as technology gets better, should we have drone in there somewhere?
I don't, I think that alternative means, I think what you're trying to demonstrate is what the height looks like. And they typically have been using balloon tests, but we're giving them alternative means if they can demonstrate that does this,
Oh, the
provides,
last
provides the same
Okay,
end result.
Yep.
yeah.
So I think it's all right.
It's
Yeah.
all
All
right.
right,
Keep it tethered, though.
That kind of defeats the purpose.
When I was learning
I
how to
have
fly-
You're gonna have to
509A
use
as well.
cable to keep it tethered.
When I was learning how to fly, I found a kid's balloon right over Casper, and I'm nervous as hell. I'm all right over Casper anyway. And here's this damn balloon right out my window, and I just about wrecked.
and I want to make sure I'm on the right.
Where we?
509A11. 167.
Whoa,
Man,
whoa.
we're skipping right along
If,
now.
if this is correct, this is Dave's,
Well, I had one on 5 too, as far as alternative sites, but on, back to where, right below the balloon test.
so do we need to go back up to,
I think we're leaving the balloon test language.
No, this is alternative sites. This is not the balloon test. This is below the balloon test. The
So
next thing. This
back
is
to
alternative sites, talking
508.
about alternative sites.
What page?
It's 150,
Okay.
number 5. And I guess the biggest thing that I have on some of this stuff is, these people don't come in here and just randomly select a location. They have a very specific reason for wanting a location where they're gonna put something.
You know, that sounds good, but when you come down to it, we've had those companies come in and you can tell they looked at a map and they saw a whole bunch of houses and they put their finger right in the middle of it, like out at Bessemer Bend.
Yeah.
The best place for that tower is on top of the hill,
Oh, I
but they
agree.
put it right down in the bottom of that hole. 'Cause they, on a map, they saw all those houses there. And I think that happens same way with up by, Northern Dreams up there. They put that tower right kind of behind Northern Dreams, and it was in that Antelope Hills area out there, and they put their finger on a map and said, this is where we need a tower. Well, hell, it should have been up on the hill. But they put it right in the bottom down there.
Yeah, that
And
one,
that's just reality. I talked about it to them, and no, they had a drawing that was the best place to put the tower. The Bessemer Bend one,
So what do you think?
I'm not sure that they ever even put it up.
they
put
did.
the pole
They
up.
did put it up and it's active now.
Well, they put it up they put the pole up, but I'm not sure anything's on it yet.
It is.
It isn't?
It is, yeah, it is.
It took
But,
them a long time.
but I guess my question on this was
I don't know whether you can
within 4
tell
miles.
them exactly where to put it, because they've got their scientists and they want to put it wherever they want to.
Well, and I guess that's my point, is,
this is the administrative process, so this tells me that I'm going to ask them to produce these things and did they do their homework? And what's their reasoning after I get this information back?
I'm okay
So-
with it.
Yeah, I think it's all right.
Jim?
Yeah.
I mean, this is the stuff that I'm gonna guess was developed probably consistent across the counties, when this came up.
When we stole this.
So would you
Yeah,
guys like
Stoller
to
County.
pause? You- keep going?
We go to 11 so then we switch our brands to Board of Equalization.
Okay, I just didn't know if you needed to, right. So 50, so I have 509, does anybody have anything else in 508?
Which one is 519? How, you said 67?
It's a ways down there.
Yeah, it is. Here, wireless, okay, I've got something on solar, but where are we at?
160,
We're on
solar and these large energy farms, basically, whether it's
Did
solar or
anybody find the
wind.
page yet?
I
No,
am,
we're-
167,
Yeah.
157?
Thank you.
67.
I just wanted to make
67.
sure I didn't pass it up.
So this was mine, the social and economic report, when they come in and they tell you all this stuff, you know, how many jobs it's gonna do and all that. They're required to do that in the industrial siding.
Yep,
And so my only thought there was having us required, if it's that big industrial siding, they're already going to do that.
yeah.
But, yes, but
We need to keep this in here.
that's fine.
And here's why, because remember, a lot of those projects aren't jurisdictional ISC, ISD.
Yeah.
They're not that many wind
If they're
turbines.
below the
Or they're
minimum.
below the dollar threshold of now is it 200 million basically. Somebody goes and puts in a $50 million facility, I think the county ought to know what the impact is gonna be in making a better decision, so.
Again, the reason I suggested it being struck was the fact that most of these are already done in their application process to the DEQ and the state, so.
But in these non-jurisdictional projects, they don't even go through that process.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
You leave it back
Probably
in.
ought to do
I
that.
would say, my only question was, I didn't see why we should require it if
Yeah.
the state's already
And
prior.
I agree, where there's overlap, we don't need to,
Yeah.
but in this case,
And the other thing that I find is that when they do this, they come in and they tell us this first. And it's like, I almost feel like they think that bribing us, that you're gonna get all these property taxes and stuff. It
All
comes
these
off as
jobs,
like they're,
yeah, there is kind of it's kind of a racket. this
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Industry, but, so we're leaving that in.
By
Keep it.
paid professionals, yeah.
So the next one is down the list. We took out environmental analysis.
Under, 7,
It's 160, page 168.
okay, I don't wanna leave this page yet after we're done with this one.
Okay.
So this did say, so that we could require it if we wanted to.
Right. Wasn't a hard one. It was in the absence of the required state or federal that the county can ask for it.
yeah. And again, this is me going back to thinking that these large scale and that require industrial siding, they already are required to do the environmental analysis. If you're on federal, you're gonna do NEPA. There's no ands, ifs, or buts.
Yeah.
That's the
If
reason
you
why
turn
they-
a rock, you're gonna do NEPA.
That's the reason why they don't do it on
That's why
federal.
that's right.
So do we want it in here for those non-jurisdictional smaller?
And again, I'm fine either way at that point. Like I say, my thought was on the large.
I think that should be up to the landowners in their use agreement with the companies as much as I do anything else.
Probably we ought to get into it a little bit too. They ought to at least put something forward to BOCC if it's a small project. Because you talk about the off-site deal, talk about the solar one out here. Originally, it wasn't gonna meet the threshold. Now it is, but originally it wasn't going to. And so you got bar none right beside it that they're gonna wanna know about the environment. and what it's gonna do.
So you okay if I
I'm
leave
okay with leaving it in.
I'm, I'd like to say,
Okay, in? All right.
So up under
Oh,
7,
sorry.
when I was reading in this, or reading through this, it used to be 8, now it's 7. Where,
on drainage?
yeah, well, drainage and dust control and grading and all that stuff.
I had a question on that too, as far as
Well, what I was
wetlands.
gonna, where we talk about battery technology in here, they've got the storage batteries, and we approved the storage batteries for up here. Where is it in here? Is it mentioned in here? If you're gonna have a battery storage facility, you gotta do something.
I think it's another use. Let me do a quick,
Okay,
um,
when I was going through here,
so this is the administrative process. The battery storage is gonna be up in the uses in chapter 4. And
Okay.
we did add a solar storage facility in there. We can go
Okay.
look at it if you want me to.
No,
Okay.
just as long as it's mentioned,
And
It's, yeah,
and it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be mentioned in here.
it doesn't need, this is the administrative process for all of those
Okay.
activities.
In 7, under drainages, I would recommend that we change floodways to floodplains. Floodplains are well-defined. Floodways are not.
Does this have a definition for
It-
floodway?
It does have, we do have a definition.
Well, because it says existing wetlands and floodways. And if you're talking about wetlands, it's
Well,
going to be.
I'm-
And it's different from a floodplain.
Right.
yeah, so I'm thinking like little tiny draws as a floodway. So we don't want them going in and pushing dirt in and plugging it up. Because then you,
I understand what you're saying, but some of that is actually defined by FEMA as, some of those little draws, especially in this country, are actually defined as floodplains also.
Navigable
Yeah,
rivers.
well, not navigable yet. Well, yeah, seasonal navigable rivers.
So just so we're aware, this says existing wetlands and floodways. So a floodway is the channel of a river or other water course and the adjacent land areas that must be reserved in order to discharge the base flood without cumulatively increasing the water surface elevation more than a designated height. The floodplain means any area susceptible to being inundated by water from any source. So I think this is, I think we're expanding the coverage if we put in floodplain.
yeah.
I think the floodway keeps this review tighter, which I think is better for.
I think it makes it tighter if you put in floodplains, because that's not just a channel, that's everything that's associated with it.
So you want to see a review by an engineer, so you're asking for more work from the engineer? To
Yes,
go broader.
yes, I am. Yes, I am, because if you've got a floodplain, it's just like some of the stuff, if it's a designated floodplain, it doesn't have water in it right now, but that doesn't mean that it's not gonna have water in it, that it's a big drainage or draw that actually accumulates, whether it's seasonal or whatever else.
What do you guys think? Which way you want to go?
And, Mr. Chairman, there's also different levels on that floodplain, so how they're rated, whether they're a 500, 100. So
Right.
you have a.
What year event they have it
So we're
associated
kind
with
of-
it.
But isn't most of, I mean, all of the sandbar is in the floodplain.
Yes, it is.
So, but all the sandbar is not in the floodway, right?
That's right.
So aren't we kept saying that the engineer has to supply a report that covers a whole bunch more area potentially?
Well, I would only say that it has to cover the area that they're looking at doing the work in, not the entire area, but only the area they're looking at doing the work in.
So all this is saying is that a licensed engineer has to provide a map showing these.
This is the plan.
Yeah,
And if they show the entire floodplain, it's not that big of a deal, because generally speaking, the floodplains in our area are not that huge.
What is
The,
plain or wet?
This isn't about fixing or anything, this is
No.
just about showing,
Yep.
so when I'm evaluating a plan that they give me, I want to know what the flood ways are. How is, what their runoff, where is it going to go?
where's it going?
And where does that go versus,
You're not looking at the floodplains.
but I look at the floodplain as whether they can build there or not, and if they have to have insurance to build there. But if you have runoff or you have something in regards to that, which waterways are we impacting?
So what do you guys want to do?
I think we could leave it.
I think the floodways is more what they're trying to draw in, rather than the flood. The floodplain is defined by these contours.
Okay.
This is, I think, they're trying to, in the course of doing this, what am I doing that's altering the flood the flow, natural flows and stuff?
So,
Keep
okay.
in, all right?
Remember out here at Buckham Road was underwater? Remember that? And who would have thought that was a floodway?
Well, West Yellowstone was
Chairman.
underwater in
Yes, sir.
2002.
Yes,
Jesse, real quick, if the language is changed or the term is changed, will that hinder what you need for your processes at all?
I think we agree not to change it.
We're not
We're
gonna
not
change
gonna
it.
We leave it flood.
Okay, okay.
Floodway. And we're
And
gonna
you're okay with that, right?
Yeah.
leave that 17.
Leave in 17,
16, I have 516
16.
as a use, or as an administrative process, I'm sorry. We are at 167.
Oh, back hang on.
Did I miss anybody's between where we were in 16?
167.
167.
Or 166, I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought we were past,
I thought we were already-
166, we don't have anything on.
it's a blank
It's
page.
clear up at the top.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry,
Oh.
176. I'm being
Wait.
Oh,
dyslexic.
you're
Oh,
10
I-
off.
I'm sorry.
I do that when I'm counting cows, sometimes I'm 10 off. It screws, really screws.
To your
things
favor
up.
or against?
then you have to start over?
Yeah, no, you just say, oh, hell,
So
I
the-
probably dropped a 10.
Go gather them again.
The question,
All right.
the question we have on this is B. Dave's question is why 20%? What standards are being used for 3 and 4? This is the ability for an administrative adjustment to any of this. So rather than a variance, if there's a point in the fact that there's a topographical aspect or something that I have the ability to administratively say, yes, you can reduce your setback, or I can adjust your open space by these parameters.
Yeah, I think this is good, and I think this should stay the same, and I think it gives you flexibility to work with property owners on a case-by-case basis.
I'm good.
Yep.
Okay.
You can make a note, hang on. Then it was E was the other question on here. Expiration,
No,
say, I'm sorry,
Alternative.
alternative approval.
That just gives you the ability to punt.
yeah, no, this is
Keep.
good. If
Okay.
you have particular concerns, then you can defer, like Jim said, kick it up.
Kick it up. D4,
Hey, just.
17, sorry, yes, sir.
On 177, is that, or that's where you're at?
Yes, sir.
Okay, 170. I had a question on 77. D1B. Protects natural and scenic resources. That's kind of like that view shed stuff.
It is that view shed stuff.
So I was wondering about that one when I went through there.
We can remove scenic and just keep natural resources.
I think that'd be good.
I think that's good too.
Okay.
How often is scenic used in our comprehensive land use?
In our land use,
Is it referenced frequently? Quite a bit?
as a goal, yeah.
So it might not be view shed more than what the building looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
we can take scenic out of that.
all right.
So then 17D4.
Better.
We're still on that same page?
No, we're on 178.
Okay. D4, yes.
Oh, the red line?
And if we need to come back to this on Tuesday,
should go
because
this
I have some alternative language for variance
Let's
to
still play it
replace
safe. I
this.
want you back.
Okay,
that I don't think we have time for right now.
okay.
Okay, so we've got, what's our, oh, Renee?
Renee, we're.
Where, what,
just about
is
done.
Carpenter's up first?
No, he's at 1. 11 o'clock is in Cooper.
Okay.
So is this 2020 still, or are we doing 2022?
You can set up if you want.
Yeah,
We're
Okay.
about done.
yeah.
I'll be right back. Thank
Okay.
you.
And we can call it
Yeah,
here.
so, yeah, let's call it here. And how much more time do you think, just to get through the document? To the end?
The rest of, it's just to the end of that page, so we have 17, and then a few other statements. So it's all in the administrative and
We're just about to, we're
and
not that
definitions.
far off.
Right.
Some questions on some definitions. So you're within striking distance of
Of
an hour, maybe
Hour,
a little
okay?
bit more.
And
If, depends on how
that's to get
quickly.
That's to get through the rest of it. The stuff that we've done right now, you can get that to us by Tuesday, or by Monday maybe, so that we could go back through it. Here's what I'm thinking, that maybe we take 2 hours on Tuesday, the work, maybe start at 1 o'clock or something. Finish this off. And then if we've already have everything up to 177, we can all go back through it and see if there's anything that we've missed. And then by the end of Tuesday, we'll have gone through the complete document and made whatever changes we think, so that we can then turn around and get it posted.
Are we, by doing that, are we opening up the door to
Are
going
you-
back through all these things?